Hey there folks, Graham here and welcome to yet another dive down the MIDI rabbit hole. Today we're taking a look at why and how to record MIDI and what you can do with it once you've recorded it. Now I'm not going to cover absolutely everything today, but enough to cover all the basics and hopefully elevate your understanding of MIDI and how it can be used in the recording and producing process. If all that sounds good to you, then stick around, and if you like what you see, then please don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really does help me to reach a wider audience and introduce more people to the wonderful world of MIDI. First of all, if you haven't seen any of my other videos, what is MIDI? Well, MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface, and it's essentially a communication protocol that allows electronic music gear to talk to and interact with each other, as well as computers and computer software like a DAW. Every time you do anything on a hardware synth or a software synth on your computer or on a MIDI controller, such as hitting a key, moving a knob, moving a slider, pitch bend or modulation wheel, MIDI information is generated, and this information can be sent to another piece of gear to trigger sounds or control something. But this information can also be recorded and captured. As a caveat, the amount and type of MIDI information generated can vary from synth to synth, with some transmitting every single piece of information from everything that you touch and do, to other more basic analog synths that only send and respond to limited information. Let's dive a little deeper. When you record audio from your synths or drum machines, you're just recording the sound that they're outputting. The same as if you put a microphone in front of an acoustic guitar, an electric guitar amp, or over some drums and just recorded the sound live. But with electronic music gear, we know that they transmit MIDI information as you play them. And this data includes things like what note was played, when it was played, how hard or soft it was played, and how long the note was held or sustained for. In addition, any MIDI CC information associated with what you play can also be captured. Things like, did you move the modulation wheel? Did you apply a pitch bend? Did you sweep the filter cutoff or the resonance? And if you did any of these, how much and how quickly or slowly did you apply them? By the way, if you don't know what MIDI CCs are or what they are used for, I'll leave a link to a dedicated video I've done on that topic. Basically, the MIDI data generated when you play a synth enables you to capture every element of what you're playing and how you're manipulating the sound. But, and this is very important, MIDI data contains no sound. It's just data. All you're capturing is the actions that you're performing. To demonstrate this, I'm going to use a handy piece of software called MIDI OX that you can see on the screen at the moment. This allows you to see exactly what MIDI information is being transmitted when you play your keyboards. MIDI OX can do loads more stuff, but here I'm just using it to visualize what's going on. So if I press note C4 on my keyboard, my DeepMind 12 in this case, what you'll see is when I press the note, there'll be a note on message, and when I release the note, there'll be a note off message, like this. So if I press the note on, and when I release it, note off. I won't go into what all the numbers and data mean on the screen here. This is just to give an example of what sort of information you get when you press a key on a keyboard. And you can clearly see in the note and event columns that the note is C4, and there's a note on event when I press it and a note off event when I release it. And if I were to press a C major chord like this, you can see that we get the notes C, E and G with a note on, and then the same notes with a note off. Now, if I press C4 again, but this time press it down harder to activate the aftertouch, what you'll see after the note on message is some aftertouch information being generated, like this. You can see that different to the note on and note off messages, the aftertouch information is a constant stream of data. This is because it is CC information, or control change, also known as continuous controller. Unlike note on and note off messages, it isn't a single event, but a continuously changing parameter depending on how much aftertouch I'm applying. The same happens if I say move the cutoff filter while I'm playing. I get a constant stream of data, as the MIDI data is capturing the movement of the slider as I sweep it up and down, like this. So again, you can see there's a constant stream of data as I'm moving the slider. And you'll also see there's a couple of little bits of aftertouch there as I was pressing a little harder on the key. Now, you don't really need to concern yourself with MIDI OX, how it works or what all the data means. And you don't need it in your setup for everything to work. This was just a way to show you what sort of information is generated when you play your synths, so you can understand a little of what's going on behind the scenes. So why would you record MIDI? Well, recording audio is great, and it allows you to capture live exactly what you're playing, every nuance, just like recording any live instrument. However, once you've recorded it, you're limited as to what you can do with it. If you made a mistake when playing, that mistake is baked in, and most likely you'll need to play it and record it again to get the perfect take. Also, the sound is fixed. If you recorded a piano or a specific synth sound, it will always sound like that. You can't change the original audio source. But recording MIDI data doesn't capture the sound. It just captures what notes you played, how you played them, and any other actions you performed while playing them. This means that unlike audio data, nothing is fixed, and it can all be manipulated after the fact. If you hit a wrong note, you can go back in afterwards and change it. Was your timing slightly out on a few notes or chords? Well, you can shift them to come in earlier or later. Played too soft? You can increase the velocity or reduce it if you were playing too hard. In fact, you can manipulate almost anything in the performance, including adding things that you might not have even done, such as adding modulation, filter changes, and adding or adjusting sustain to notes. You can even change to an entirely different instrument by just sending the MIDI data to a different synth to the one that you used to record with, whether that be hardware or software. So, how do you do all this? Well, all of this happens through the magic of your DAW, or Digital Audio Workstation, which is effectively your recording studio. It can also be done in dedicated hardware production tools like the MPC range from Akai, but for now we'll just look at how a DAW works. Here on the screen I have Cubase, my chosen DAW. There are many others like Logic Pro for Mac users, Ableton Live, Reaper or Avid Pro Tools, and which you use is up to you, but they essentially all do the same thing, allowing you to record and manipulate audio and MIDI. In here I have a template set up with separate audio and MIDI tracks for all of my hardware instruments, along with instrument tracks for all my VSTs. These are slightly different to a standard MIDI track in that they effectively combine MIDI and audio into a single track. If you want more info on how and why I have my template set up this way, I'll leave a link to a video on that topic down below. Now let's take a deeper look at audio versus MIDI using my MODX 8 Plus. If I record an audio track like this, you can see on the screen the audio waveform of what I've recorded. I can then manipulate it in various ways. So I can squeeze it tighter, which effectively makes it play faster, or indeed I can stretch it out, which makes it play slower. or I can apply things like effects and EQ to the track. There's quite a lot I can do, but at the end of the day, the notes that I played, the order I played them, and the instrument that I played them on are all effectively fixed. But what about MIDI? What I have here is a MIDI track, and if I go to the routing, you can see that the input is set as my MODX, and the output is going back to the MODX. And the input and output MIDI channels are set to channel 1, the same as my MODX. This means that the MIDI track in my DAW is set to receive data from my MODX on channel 1 and is also configured to send that data back out on channel 1 back to the MODX. Now let's play something similar, but this time record it as MIDI. Now what you see is instead of an audio waveform, we have sort of markers plotting out and representing what notes we've played. And if I play the MIDI track back, the computer will send that MIDI information back to the MODX and tell it what notes to play, like this. Note what you're hearing there is the live audio from the MODX being triggered by the MIDI information that's being sent to it from the computer. It's a bit like an old pianola where the paper or metal roll contains all the notes, and as it rotates it triggers the keys on the piano. Whereas when I play back an audio track I've recorded, the synth isn't doing anything. I'm just listening to the recorded audio, pretty much the same as listening to a CD. If I then open up the key editor in Cubase that you can see on the screen here, you can see exactly what I played and how I played it. On the left, we have a piano roll showing all the notes. And over on this grid, we have all the notes that I played. So we can see I started with a chord with E, C, G, and then C and C, and then I've got an E, C, G, and then I bring a D in, etc, etc. The width of the note shows how long I held the note for. Was it a very long note like this one, or a very short staccato note like this one? The colour of the notes represents how hard I played the keys, with red being full velocity and blue being the softest, and their alignment on the grid shows when I played them, i.e. their timing. Now, unlike with audio, I can manipulate and change anything I want to. If I want to change a note, I can just move it to a different note like this. I can just drag it up and down the scales. If I want to shorten or lengthen a note, I can make it shorter or I can make it longer. If I want to alter when it was played, I can shift it either way on the grid, so I can bring that note over to the left here, or I can move it over to the right over here. If I want to make any part louder or softer, I can go to the bottom here and I can change the velocity. For example, here I could start off at full velocity, then bring it down softer, and then bring it back up to full velocity again at the end. Or I can even do things like edit or add sustain, or even move the entire passage up or down an octave. So here you'll see the first note starts on C2, but if I apply a transpose of 12 semitones, everything moves up and the first note is now on C3. What else? Well, as mentioned, you can even change the sound or the instrument entirely, as we're not dealing with audio here, just data. So I can take all the MIDI data that I recorded from my MODX and drag it, for example, onto the MIDI track for my DeepMind 12. Now, when I play it back, it will trigger the DeepMind instead of the MODX, like this. The same would apply with a VST track, I could just drag the MIDI data onto the VST and have the MIDI data play that instead. Indeed, you don't actually need to play the keys on your synths at all. You can program the notes into your DAW by hand, or indeed purchase ready-made MIDI packs with chord progressions, etc. already programmed that you can just drag and drop into your DAW. Obviously, many people will scoff at these, but if you don't yet know how to play your instrument properly and just want to get started putting some music together, they could be a good source of inspiration. But nothing actually beats learning to play properly and creating your own original music. And finally, the last thing for today is, once you've recorded your MIDI and manipulated it however you want, you then need to record it to audio, because as we know, MIDI data does not contain any audio. It's just computer data. If it's MIDI from a hardware synth, you'll need to play the MIDI track back so that it triggers the relevant synth and then record that output direct to an audio track. VSTs are slightly different in that VST tracks contain both the MIDI and the audio data. You can either leave it as MIDI, and when you do your audio mix down, it will automatically be converted to audio, or depending on your DAW, you can bounce the MIDI track to audio. There's a function in most DAWs where you can what is called render in place, and that will automatically convert your MIDI data into a new audio track. So I think you can see there's an awful lot of stuff you can do with MIDI, and it does offer some distinct advantages in the recording and producing process. As I said earlier, the plan was never to cover absolutely everything today, as that would be far too much for one single video, but to cover the basics of why and how to record MIDI and what you can do with it once you've recorded it. I'm pretty sure you'll soon start to learn and uncover all the things you can do with it, so have fun experimenting. Well, that's about it for today. Any questions, leave them in the comments down below and I will get back to you. Indeed, any other feedback is gratefully received. And if you have enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe and ring that bell, as it really is appreciated and helps me in reaching a wider audience to help as many people like you as possible. But for now, I've been Graham, take care and catch you later.